Good morning, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. This is Rich again, back for your first video blog of the day for September 6, 2014, around 7:20 in the morning in Berwick, Massachusetts. Gonna be nice and sunny today, very high humidity, close to 90 degrees, and we're gonna have some thunder showers in the afternoon and evening. Some of it could be severe and stuff, but this will cool us off and go back to normal temperatures. Some news to report: the Boston Red Sox beat Toronto Blue Jays with a score of 9-8 in 10 innings. Also, the Pittsburgh Panthers beat the Boston College Eagles in football by a score of 30-20 last night. The game was played at Alumni Stadium in Chestnut Hill on the campus of Boston College, and LA Dodgers pitcher Josh Beckett is considering retirement. He's going to miss the rest of the year to repair a torn labrum in his shoulder, and it's going to be like his career was like iffy at best. There were signs that he was going to be a dominant pitcher, but other signs he was just a mediocre pitcher. But who knows? Josh is only 34 years old, so he might consider retirement. But his career is kind of what if because he was a World Series MVP in 2003 at the age of 23 with the Marlins, and people were picking him as one of the next big pitchers of all time. But his career was iffy at best, and hope for the best for him. Okay, my next subject is my first subject of the day. It's about the former sports radio station in Boston, 1510 The Zone, WWZN. WWZN was kind of a challenger to sports radio WEEI in Boston in the early 2000s. Actually, WWZN started as a sports station years ago on the 1510 dial. Back in 1998, it was under the name WNRB, and it broadcast the syndicated radio sports network One-on-One Sports, and One-on-One Sports had a lot of hosts like Papa Joe Savaya and Chet Kopic and Ned Aparicio and Jay Mariotti, and they were based out of Chicago. And by 1999 and stuff, they were rebranded as WWZN. They were bought by Paul Allen, who at one time owned Sporting News, and he was one of the co-founders of Microsoft. And they moved their studios to Burlington, Massachusetts, and they had some local programming around 1990 and 2000. Every Monday during Patriots season for the 2 years, they had that New England Patriots show every Monday during football season, hosted by Butch Stearns, and also they had legendary sports writer from the Boston Globe, Will McDonough, and also they carried some New England Revolution games and some local college football games. And in 2001, they acquired the rights to become the flagship radio station of the Boston Celtics, and announcing the games was Sean Grande and Cedric Maxwell. And around this time, around the fall of 2001, they had the first local sports talk show in the afternoons from 3 to 7 p.m. It was hosted by Sean McDonough, and his flash guy was Dave Jagler. Dave Jagler became, over time, the Pawtucket Red Sox announcer, and then he does Washington Nationals games on the radio. And around, they were also having Celtics pre- and post-game shows hosted by Marty Terrell one year, and the next few years Jimmy Myers. Around March of 2002, the godfather of sports talk in Boston, Eddie Anderman, joined 1510 The Zone. His show was from noon to 3, and it was popular. In the fall of 2002, Mikey Adams hosted a early morning sports show from 6 to 10 called The Mikey Adams Show, and his sidekick was Candy. But I know who Candy really is. She used to work at Hooters of Boston, and her real name's Jillian. I knew that. But Mikey's Adams Show only lasted about 6 months until he had disagreements with the company that owns 1510 The Zone. And 1510 The Zone had other shows like the Die Hards and Ryan Russillo, but they were not getting ratings because the signal for 1510 to zone at night became virtually non-existent. They said they had 50,000 watts, but when the sun went down at one night, the signal station was interfered by from other radio stations, especially 1510 out of Baltimore, Washington, D.C. Sometimes when I was listening to the Celtics games, it would be interfered. You could hear stuff from Baltimore and the Baltimore station 1510 WTOP, and sometimes I could hear like Wizards games or Orioles games, and the station was losing money. And 2004, 2005 was the last year the Boston Celtics played on 1510 The Zone. They actually had a contract for 5 years, but the Celtics canceled the contract at the end of the 2004, 2005 season because they would say they were losing money. And then afterwards, by the fall of 2005, all of the other local programming, including Eddie Anderman's show, was canceled, and 1510 The Zone broadcast mostly sporting news radio stuff and some broker time for local shows and other stuff, and then they changed formats, and Paul Allen, who owned the Sporting News Radio and Sporting News and co-owner of Microsoft, sold the station. They moved the station to Quincy, right by Manalina Bay, and then they had Broco time. They switched so many formats. They're now like WUFC 1510, but they're not like 24/7 UFC radio. They broadcast libertarian radio now, and they flip, and a few times over the past few years they carried NBC Sports Radio and Yahoo Sports Radio, which replaced Sporting News Radio. Like 1510 The Zone could have been a contender for WEEI, but the poor signal hampered them, and also the Celtics games, were great to have, but this is when the time the Celtics weren't that great. They were like a playoff team during that one, but they never advanced to the NBA Finals. I think they made the Eastern Conference Finals the first year they were on 1510 The Zone, but then their playoff success was limited, and 1510 The Zone was probably a good alternative to WEEI, but if they had a stronger signal, they could have gave WEEI a run for its money back in the early to mid 2000s. It's such a shame that 1510 The Zone just barely reached like a radar on Boston Sports Radio. It's a shame. Well, that's about it for now. I'll be back later for at least 2 more video blogs, which one will be about CBS Sports star Jim Nantz and the classic TV game show Tattletales. Okay, have a good day, Facebook friends and YouTube followers. By now, great feedback, and if you want a shout out or anything, just private message me. Good day, everybody.